a song I wrote for him. Hope y'all enjoy it. It's called The Sun Will Never Set on You. They all felt the blow the day your candle blew out, not unlike Sir Elton said. You'll always be a legend in the hearts and minds of your students, your family and friends. Holidays I knew you best, telling stories, educating me and the rest. Always found a way to explain in such a way that it wouldn't twist my tiny little brain. And ooh, oh, the sun will never set on you. Oh, the sun will never set on you. Oh, I wish you had more time, you changed those so many lives. Planted so many seeds and got to watch them all grow. Your tech high Dr. Seuss says, oh, the places you will go. Said all of you will go so far. And you've all got what it takes to put a gold star on my heart. Oh, the sun will never set on you. Oh, the sun will never set on you. I wish you had more time, you changed oh so many lives. If you could see it now, everyone posting letters they never sent, memories and singing your praises, things you did for these kids all throughout the ages, helping them through some of life's toughest stages. You know I felt the blow the day your candle blew out, not unlike Sir Elton said. You'll always be a legend in my heart and in my mind. Oh, too soon your life had to end. Oh, the sun will never set on you. Oh, the sun will never set on you. I wish you had more time, you changed oh so many lives. Thank you. This next song is a traditional song. It's called Will the Circle Be Unbroken? You may remember Johnny Cash or the Carter Family singing it. And if you know it, I'd like to welcome you all to sing along with me. But it's cool if you don't want to. I was standing by my window on a cold, cloudy day when I saw the hearse come rolling for to carry my father away. Will the circle be unbroken by and by, Lord, by and by? There's a better home awaiting in the sky, Lord, in the sky. Well, I went back home. Home was lonely for my father, he was gone. And all my family there was crying, for our home felt so sad and alone. Will the circle be unbroken by and by, Lord, by and by? There's a better home awaiting in the sky, Lord, in the sky. Undertaker, Undertaker, won't you please, please drive slow for that man that you are hauling. Lord, I hate to see him go. Will the circle be unbroken by and by, Lord, by and by? There's a better home awaiting in the sky, Lord, in the sky. There's a better home awaiting in the sky, Lord, in the sky. Thank you.
I'm going to be reading the Lord's Prayer. If you know it, please feel free to join in. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever and ever. Amen.
I believe we're starting to remember this now. For those that don't know me, my name is Joseph. Dr. Immel is my father. Yeah, sorry about that. Cicero wrote of the sage Bias. He was fleeing the city of Priene. That he was asked by a passerby why he carried none of his possessions with him. Bias responded, "I do. Everything I have is carried with me." I don't have the greatest of memories. A lot of my father is lost to me. What I do hold on to are small images, glimpses, backed up by anecdote and retelling. So I thought it might help if I told some of it here. I remember a birthday party in the park down in Cherry Valley in Petaluma. My father, he built entire pirate ships out of cardboard boxes, built them together, painted them for me. I remember a blue couch on the west wall of the hatchery where I read Harry Potter in 4th grade in between him teaching me cell biology. I remember traveling I remember Versailles. I remember how much he loved so much the culture and just everyone. I remember in Morocco, the people were so kind. We were invited in. My father was invited in, and we came with him to drink tea in a stranger's home. I remember Africa. I remember the look in his eyes when he looked up into the sky. We got to see the Magellanic Clouds. These things are just fleeting flashes. I don't remember many of them. But what I do remember are thoughts, ideas, what I was taught, the things he carried. He taught me to be kind. He taught me to be charitable, to never doubt others, to know that when you look at someone, you never know what's going on. He taught me to be decent, to strive, to pursue knowledge. More than anything, what I remember of my father was that he was proud. Not vain, not haughty, proud. Honest to goodness, proud of all the people around him. His family, his students, everyone he knew. I can't remember a time talking to him that he didn't tell me with great pride about the accomplishments of someone else in his life. All I have are the things I carry. And when Father passed, a lot of those things were dropped. And I'm hoping sincerely that through all the lives he touched, so many of us will be able to pick them up and carry them and pass them along. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Stephanie, and I was part of Tech Eye's class of 2011. When I was asked to give a talk about Dr. Immel, I felt a feeling of honor. As one of his proteges, I felt as though there was so much that I could say and so many stories that I could tell. There were so many things that he taught me and taught us all. Then I thought, how can someone honor such a great man in such a short talk? I spent a long time thinking about what to say, and I spent so much time that I actually put off writing this until last night. Though Dr. Immel probably wouldn't have expected anything more from me. I decided to write something that I hope reflects not just my relationship with Dr. Immel, but that of a lot of his other students and those who knew him in the same capacity that I did. Dr. Immel may have helped me get through high school and my undergraduate career, and ultimately into my graduate career, but he was more than just a professional mentor. To many of us, he was a father, a brother, or an uncle. He understood what all of us were going through, because he'd done it as much as 2 or 3 of your average people would have done. He understood what we were going through, and he never judged us for who we are or what we did. He just wanted us to have a life full of happiness and success, just as he had had. he also knew when to listen and to just listen to what I had to say. He also understood when I needed to suck it up a bit and he needed to be a little bit of a hard ass or a smart ass and tell me to get moving. I had health issues at one point when I was at UCI and I was struggling academically, and I had told him how worried I was, but he said, don't worry, your grades aren't going to be important in the grand scheme of things. And it turns out that I finally believed him when I applied to academic graduate programs this last winter and received interviews for most of these schools. And he wouldn't let me forget it, made sure to say, I told you so, I told you so, I told you so. One thing that he did do that had a great impact on me, and I'm sure he did it with all of his other students as well, is that he showed me the confidence that I didn't have in myself. I remember when Dr. Immel first started teaching the biotechnology class, I sat down to have coffee with him, and he said, Stephanie, do you have any ideas on what I could teach for the curriculum? I only have enough to get me through the end of September. We all know that ultimately he found enough curriculum to get through that first year. But I knew I had his respect, but it was acts like this that really showed how much confidence and how much he regarded me as not just a student and a person, but as a scientist. Dr. Immel opened doors for many of us that we didn't think were possible and helped us discover what we were passionate about, even if it wasn't science or engineering. He showed us what we were capable of and wanted us to follow our dreams. There are many in this room that I know have said, if it wasn't for Dr. Immel, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today. I know Capinite is something that had an effect on many of us and many of the students, even if we weren't going into science or engineering. Most of what I remember from that night is sitting sleep deprived in front of a computer trying to get this perfect paper written for him. But there's one moment that kind of stands out to me, and it wasn't really about engineering or my love of engineering, but it was more just knowing that I can do things when I'm thrown in the deep end. So for those of you that haven't gone through Capinite, I'm going to be general and vague because I know there's probably Tech High students here who haven't gone through it, and by tradition you're not supposed to know what happens. But so you show up and there's an engineering disaster that you're going to analyze. And so the teachers put you into groups, and later in the night after you study this person, one person from that group, one student, goes and acts as them like in an improv situation. And so when I say that the student's willing to act in an improv situation, it means Dr. Immel and Mr. Weaver specifically put students in groups to set certain students up to have to do this. So when I went through Capinite, they had set me up to be a not so nice and very controlling woman, if I want to put it politely. And so Doctor pulled me aside and I said, you set me up, and he said, yeah, you got a problem with that. And I didn't think I could do it, and I told him that, but he said, look, okay, you gotta be a bitch on wheels, just go and do it. And he sent me out there to do it. I have a twin sister who was also in the class at the time, and he asked her if I could do it, and she said, oh yeah, it won't be a problem. Can you guess who was right? So one thing, though, that I did read and hear from many people right after his passing was how there were so many lives that he was never going to be able to touch, and there were so many things he wasn't going to get to do. As Mother Teresa once said, we are all but small instruments here, and when we accomplish our mission, we disappear. Just as Mother Teresa did, Dr. Immel served many on his mission, and his words and teachings will live on through those whose lives were touched by his. It's now our turn. He gave us all a little piece of his heart and inspired us. We all contain a small part of him and who he was. And I personally didn't see that little piece of him until after he passed. And I'm sure there's more that I have yet to discover. But just a few weeks before, I ran into an old student of mine who worked as a tutor on campus. She told me how she came into the genetics course that she had to take unenthused, and the professors were terrible, and she was really not excited to take the class. reminds me of when we're put into projects and papers and we wanted to do well not for ourselves, but because of him. I want to challenge everyone today to find a way in which Dr. Immel continues to live on through you. Some of us in this room may not see how he continues to live with us right now, but I want you to one day find it, even if it takes you a decade to find it. It's okay. It could be through your love of science, your desire to teach, your determination to never grow up. It could even be your desire to sport a large orange afro or a shared hatred of squirrels. Whatever it is, I want everyone in his or her own time and in his or her own way to show the world the impact that he had on you as a person. And I don't think you'd be here today if he didn't have some sort of impact on you. Dr. Immel once said to me, and I know he felt the same way about all of you, I miss you too, but I want you to miss me more so that you'll succeed. No matter what, I love you more than my life. Do your best and remember, I'll always love you. He loved us more than he loved his own life. All he wanted was to see us succeed in our endeavors, regardless of what they were. He also once told me, and it's some of the greatest advice I've been given, especially since I'm trying to get my PhD, you can take the freeway or you can take the scenic route. Regardless of how long each path takes, you're still going to get to your final destination. I want you all to make Dr. Immel proud and throw those roadblocks aside and achieve your dreams, regardless of how long it takes. It's okay if it takes you until you're 50 to get your degree or land your dream job. Dr. Immel didn't even start to teach until he was 50. Look at what he did in those 13 years. His devotion wasn't to teaching, but it was to his students. When it comes to doing what you're passionate about, time and age don't matter. So I want everyone to take that little piece of Dr. Immel that's now a part of you and use it to propel you forward in life. When you miss him, put that energy into your success and earn another gold star for Dr. Immel's heart, and know that he's there with you. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Scott McKeon. I had the pleasure of working with Dr. Immel for the past 4.5 years while working at Technology High School. I would like to first start off by thanking Barbara, Joe, Eli, and the entire Immel family for allowing me to speak to you all today. I stand before you today extremely grateful and honored to be allowed the opportunity to speak to you all about such an amazing educator, mentor, and friend. His outreach and influence, his prominence, are all apparent by not only the amount of people here today, but by the unique and one-of-a-kind relationships that he had with each and everyone gathered here today. Dr. Immel was able to share and provide students with his wisdom, compassion, and overall understanding of each and every scientific discipline, as well as his vast amounts of life experiences. He polished, groomed, and molded various adolescent lives, oftentimes encouraging them to reach above and beyond their own academic and personal goals, dreams, and desires. The shy, the introverts, the students who many teachers had difficult times getting through. He possessed the key to connecting with these individuals, all while instilling a sense of trust and honesty when it comes to the student-teacher relationship. The metaphorical walls that certain students put up were no match for Dr. Immel. Instead of forcing his way in, he formed a bond based on trust and respect. Students would let down these walls even if for a short period of time. Others teachers would say, "You got so-and-so to participate?" Or "You got him and her to do what?" The entire staff was in awe of his ability to connect with all different types of students. As many of you may know, and for the ones that don't, the first time you meet Dr. Immel, he would utter extremely complex, in-depth scientific terms. But it was not with the intention to overwhelm you with a sense of inferiority, but rather to welcome you and encourage you to engage in a passionate and intriguing discussion of the various realms of science. He demanded respect, structure, and order in his classroom. If you were in violation of any of these policies, you would know. If your backpack wasn't placed under your desk, it was a fire hazard. He demanded 100% compliance on assignments. If you did not submit an assignment or lab report, he required you to sit down and copy in pen, word for word, from a past student's submission, because he'd be damned to see you get no points. His unique class curriculum, to me, has been one of the most enjoyable aspects of my teaching experience. He brought forth and developed his own biotechnology course. I remember the day when I first came to Tech High, I couldn't believe the fact that they offered a biotechnology course at a high school. Biotechnology was a unit that I was a part of my genetics course in college, and there was an entire course offered at a high school. Whoa. I'm going to go off of, that was my written statement. I'm going to go off of a few memories that I feel like a couple students, past and present, would like to do. And I apologize if I'm not as much structured as when I say this, but I have some pretty good memories I'd like to share. He taught many of us how to open a door correctly. When students would ask him, "Why do you hate squirrels?" his response would be, "Well, what's to like?" I can tell you my honest opinion, there's only a few people in my entire life that I know that can wear a tiara and peak streamers on their ears and yell out, "I'm a professional educator." But to be honest, he was. His hallway visits, every once in a while I would go out in the hallway to use the bathroom or get a drink of water, and he'd be pacing back and forth, and we'd start a conversation, and 20 and 30 minutes would go by, and all of a sudden he'd think, "I think I have a class to go teach." And I'd say, "Yeah, me too. I think we need to go do that." We would combine classes numerous times teaching sophomores, and he would pass the torch and allow me to teach, and I was so nervous he would correct me on the spot, and there's other times where he would correct me and then admit he was wrong. I think there was one time, to tell you the truth, and I'll never forget that. But he allowed me to team teach with him, and it was extremely enjoyable, and I appreciate him passing the torch in that regard. Just this last summer, with a group of students at Tech High, I got to journey to Italy with his wife Barb, him, and a few select individuals from from Tech High to Italy, to witness the statue of David and all its physiology and anatomy in front of the person that emphasized anatomy and physiology at Tech High was amazing, and to see all those landmarks and those historic things with him was beyond my dreams, and I cherish it till this day. The dinner conversations that we had, I'll never forget. We went with this couple students from Rancho Cotati, and she started talking about her science fair project, how she used potatoes to generate electricity in these batteries, and we both kind of exchanged this glance like, "Oh, Rancho science fair projects. Got it." By the way, I went to Rancho. I'm allowed to say that. The invertebrate zoology field trip. There's a reason why everybody remembers Kings Play Chess on Fine Grained Sand, or Kingdom Phylum Class Order Family Genus Species. There's a reason why you see an invertebrate, you automatically think, "Oh, phylum and class." There's a tradition on each invertebrate zoology field trip. I'm not sure if it happened 10 or so years ago, but SSU does this thing where they hand out hot dogs with a free Frisbee. There's these blue Pepsi Frisbees, and Dr. Immel was known for storing them in what we call the dungeon, which was his closet in his room. And throughout the years, they would have this Frisbee war in the creek near the bay tree at the invertebrate zoology field trip. And it was kind of like a dodgeball type thing. People would throw a Frisbee 50 miles an hour at each other. So the first few years I went, about 3 or 4 years ago, it was a really light thing. Only the boys liked doing it. It was about 5 versus 5. It was really small. And throughout the years, it kind of got a lot bigger. So this year, after his passing, I had to lead the invertebrate zoology field trip, and I actually purposely left behind the Frisbee because I didn't want to set a bad example to the parents of who's this nutty young teacher who's going to allow kids to throw Frisbees at each other a million miles an hour. So we ended up bringing them, and I have a video. I'm not going to show the video, but people left with a couple bloody lips and things like that. And I'm glad to keep the tradition alive, but I was also very nervous at the same time. When we do department meetings, science department meetings, I think I see Drew over here. Department meetings were absolutely amazing with Dr. Immel. We would talk about curriculum half the time, and we'd talk about life experiences other times. But there wasn't a time that we wouldn't all be brought to tears or laughing with Drew, me, Greg, and at times Dane. I know he had a great influence on not only Drew and myself. We sat on the couch the day after learning of his passing, and we just talked about the influence he had on us. And I know he was really impressionable on Drew as well. Team teaching together was really, really great. He would give us this opportunity to do this thing called random question, and someone could ask him a question on anything and everything, and it was great. And like I said before in a video that people have seen, they would ask me the amateur questions and him the really advanced questions. But it was really great. I wish I was a student sitting behind the desk and I could ask him questions at times. When we do fetal pig dissections, everybody would walk by and say, "Man, what's that smell?" And we would tell the class, "You have to say, 'What smell?' and just play it off like it's nothing." So, and last but not least, the last memory I'd like to share, there's really, along with the tiara and the pink streamers that people wear, there's really only one educator I can think of that can ride a skateboard to school as well as do cartwheels in his own class. So I'm going to go back to my reading. He had a way of connecting with each and every kid that had the pleasure of making their way into his room. He had a one-of-a-kind passion for science that was apparent through his lectures, labs, and all his side conversations. He made Tech High what it is today, and the entire school-wide community won't be the same without him. He was by far one of the most wise, caring, and compassionate individuals I've ever met, and I consider myself lucky to have gotten to know him for the past 4.5 years. For those of you all that I do know, I hope to keep his legacy alive through the shared memories and constant reminiscing of who he was and how he influenced you all. For those of you that I have not met, I would love to speak to you all sometime and hear any stories or thoughts you have about Dr. Immel. I'm always here to listen, as he always was. Thank you again, everyone, especially the entire Immel family, for allowing me to speak today.
Well, I think I'm going to be talking about something that most of you probably don't know about Joe. I mean, you've seen him. Most of you here have seen him as the instructor here at Tech High. I've had the privilege of growing up with him and with my sisters, and I'll keep the dirty little secrets aside for now. Where I'd like to start is with the earliest memories that we have is from my sister Penny, and I'll read some of those memories for you. In Texas, Joey would ask Granny for gâteau. Did I say that right? Which is cake in French. Granny had no idea what he wanted. Joey had just come back from French Morocco, and we were staying at Granny's house because Dad was still in Morocco. So he picked up what was it, 3 years that he was in Morocco, he had started picking up French already. At this time, Penny was only 6 weeks old, and then they moved on to Bangor, Maine. If you didn't know, my dad was in the Air Force, and so we moved around quite a bit early on. And so then we moved on to Bangor for 6 months, and then to Omaha, Nebraska off at Air Force Base for 3.5 years. One day, it took a long time for Joe to get home. He told Mom he took the long cut. After Nebraska, we lived in England for another 3.5 years. In England, I was usually told, Penny was usually told to stay in her room or the kitchen while Mom and Dad had serious talk with Joe. He was about 6 to 8 years old, but she only heard bits and pieces of the conversation. One day she was sent to stay in the kitchen and heard Dad ask how he got all those scratches. He answered that a hedgehog had pulled him up a tree. He went on about this animal that pulled him up and he couldn't get away. I don't know what a hedgehog was at the time, but my imagination took care of the rest. I was scared and hoped to never run into one of those huge animals big enough to pull a child up a tree. There's a hedgehog, Penny. Wherever Joe went was an adventure. I don't know all of the exploits on the Royal Air Force Base, but I did learn about them when I got older. One memory from Penny is where he was a hero. In England, we lived in Rainbow Village on Bryce Norton RAF. Joe came to Penny's rescue when kids found a hand grenade. They were digging up an old runway and putting in a new runway. So a lot of old ammo from World War II was in the ground and being dug up at the time. The kid threatened to chase us with the hand grenade. Joe grabbed my hand and we ran out behind the old hangars. Later we learned from our father that the hand grenade was a live grenade and was blown up by the bomb squad. Here's a science-related memory from Penny. Growing up, I really didn't know about science in general. My classes didn't tend to cover the subject like Joe's gifted classes. I listened in on conversations Joe had with our parents, mostly my mom. I learned my lesson. I learned by listening. Joe was always talking to Mom about things that I did not understand until much later. He had a little plastic statues of scientists and was always talking about the one called Galileo. I was familiar with my science terms and scientists because I listened to Joe. Once when I visited Joe and Barb in Los Altos, Penny visiting Joe and Barb, she picked up a book of musings by Einstein. It was not scientific, but more about philosophy of life. Penny liked everything about the musings except what Einstein had to say about women. But Einstein wasn't such a bad fellow. While Joe was in high school and Penny was in junior high, Dad took two of us on a week-long camping trip up the coast of on Highway 1. We traveled in Joe's tan Toyota truck. This truck was a 1968 Toyota, and it had a shell on it, a homemade shell with hand paintings on it. It was the paintings, I'll have to tell you, were kind of 60s psychedelic paintings. So they tended to get pulled over a lot by the police. It was really surprising to see our father driving the car when the police officer, you should have seen his face, really. Um, Joe was always trying to get the neighborhood kids together to do something. We would do kick the can or capture the flag. One time, myself, Penny, and our dad went up to visit Joe in Oregon while he was working as a agricultural inspector for the state of California. When in college, he sent a train ticket for Penny on her birthday to come see him up at Shasta, where he worked. He was excited to show her around the town of Dunsmuir, where he lived, and the town of Shasta. And of course, he had friends to introduce her to. He still had the same truck with the decorations on it, and they were pulled over. In Penny's freshman year at high school, she quickly learned that everyone in school knew her and him. In the advanced Spanish class, some of the senior girls found out that she was Joe's little sister. They said that they were there to help her. Joe was an interest, excited, and enthusiastic on a daily basis. Somehow, science was always the topic of conversation. He was always go, go, go. These are some of my memories from my childhood with Joe. Well, I'll skip the childhood memories. I mean, my first memory of him was a pillow over my head. So I probably deserved it, but still, come on. There are many aspects of Joe's life we can reflect upon today, such as brother, student, friend, scientist, husband, father, enigma, teacher, traveler, and an innovator. I think we've addressed many of those today. And I recall one particular talk that Joe and I had that kind of fits a lot of these together. He was on a scientific trip to Finland with his wife Barb, and after the conference was over, they made a side trip over to St. Petersburg, or I believe it was Leningrad at the time, in the Soviet Union. He approached the Soviet customs officer, handed him his passport. The officer looked at the passport, looked at Joe, looked back at the passport, looked at Joe. This went on several times for quite a long time. And finally, Joe just shrugged his shoulders and smiled. The Soviet officer waved him through. He couldn't reconcile a curly-haired, blue-eyed person with a passport from the United States with a birthplace in Rabat, Morocco. It's just who Joe was. I mean, he was a husband and a traveler. Being the oldest of 5 children, our brother Joe has been an example to my sisters and myself that we looked up to. Though I suspect but there are a few examples our folks would rather he had not been around at the time. I know for me, I probably would not have completed college. It wasn't for Joe's example. Joe had a bad first year in college, and he had a nice long talk with Dad, and from then on he straightened up and flew right. But he set the example. I mean, he didn't quit. He got in there, persevered, and got his degree. And then he went and got his master's. And then he went and got his PhD. And I thought, good grief, is he ever going to quit going to school? Come on, you set the example already. Whenever Joe would have an interesting day, he could not stop until he got home and told the first person he could see. And then he would tell the next person he would see. He shared some physics with me, discussed the nature of quarks, and tried teaching me some vocabulary words when he was studying for the GRE exams. At the time, I thought it was a name. That's the one word I remember him teaching me. But it was just these examples that were the precursor to what he would eventually become as an educator. These are memories from his brother-in-law, Brian. Where you go? Oh. From Brian remembers meeting Joe for the first time and right away realizing how intelligent he was and thinking to himself, how is he ever going to be able to get through an entire conversation with this guy without looking like a complete idiot? Brian remembers Joe taking him to his office at Stanford and passionately pointing to this old Commodore 64 computer with all the circuit boards sticking out of it, and telling Brian how he devised this machine to measure a single ion transfer in a cell, or something like that. Or explaining to Brian some article in Science magazine covering some complex subject way beyond comprehension. Brian would pretend to understand, nodding his head up and down, and really hope he didn't ask any probing questions. After a few years of knowing Joe, periodically asking those probing questions and getting a blank look, Joe decided letting the heading of the nod, or nodding of the head, suffice. After all, he was family. All joking aside, Joe was a warm and caring individual who loved life and experienced it to the fullest. He loved his family first and foremost, but he also loved his friends, co-workers, and of course, students. In addition, Joe enjoyed travel, photography, martial arts, barbecue, Japanese food, Scotch Glenfiddich, proper coffee, which meant strong, Santa Barbara, Gus's Bar, the beach, the mountains, particularly where he and Barb were married, Robert Meltzer's homemade spaghetti and meatballs with Italian sausage, Science News, Science Magazine, World Cup soccer, hot tubbing, Brian reflected on Joe's life, I realized that although he was taken from this earth way too early, he will most certainly be remembered by those of us who are fortunate to cross his path. Joe not only showed us what was possible, he could explain it and had the patience to do so. There were not a lot of people with that ability, and there are even fewer that take on the enormous task of trying to teach it to others. Joe was just that kind of guy. Everyone will have their favorite memories of him, how he trained both his cat and rabbit to behave like a dog, squirt guns, and of course, his love-hate relationship with squirrels. Speaking of squirrels, my wife Becky, my sister, mentioned the fact that the night Joe's passing, we saw our first squirrel at the house since arriving in Oregon in 2006. As we pulled into the driveway, this squirrel ran right out in front of the car, scurried up the ash tree. It stopped on one of the higher branches and gazed down at us for a brief moment. Becky and I figured this squirrel was temporarily hijacked by Joe's spirit, and it was letting us know he's okay. Finally, we will always cherish our trips to South Africa, Zimbabwe, and Alaska, as well as the holiday gatherings and especially stocking stuffers at Christmas. However, the thing that Brian remembers most about Joe is the way he would greet him every time, with a huge hug and a great big smile. And
Bill will have a few more remembrances after this, but he asked that I do this part. My name's Melissa. I am the youngest sister. I like to say that. And when I sat down to write my remembrances of Joe, I had a really hard time. And a poem came out, so here it is. Joe, my extraordinary brother, who I truly do miss, who would hear my voice on the phone and say, "Hey, Liz." Our childhoods were different because of our age gap, but as we grew older and matured, we bonded at last. I will never forget his first time home from university. I couldn't believe how excited he was to see me. He brought me a stuffed hippo I named Millicent. I kept it with me through college, to his amazement. He gave me away at my wedding in our father's stead, supporting both me and our mother on the day I was wed. My brother was special, brilliant, and kind. He truly did have a giving heart and a beautiful mind. He was a storyteller, scientist, and teacher, of course. Before the internet, he was my Google of sorts. A wonderful brother, uncle, husband, and dad. We are all thankful for the time with you that we had.
I have one more here from middle sister Becky, and she says that she has too many memories of Joe, many similar to those that have already been talked about here by us today, some different. Penny's memories remind her of the little boy she never knew, except through Penny's memories. by the time she knew Joe, he was almost full grown in her mind. Was he ever really a little boy? I doubt it. From as far back as Becky can remember, though, her big brother Joey was her idol. She always wanted to impress him and make him proud. And as she has grown, she watched him as a father and a teacher continue to inspire those around him to be their best, and even better than we thought we could be. Like her sister Melissa, she said in her beautiful poem, "I will forever be thankful for and cherish my memories of Joe, especially those family vacations in Alaska and South Africa, as well as for the incredible surprise he gave Becky when he and Barb actually stopped by to visit in Blue Lake while she was in college. He made her feel special." Finally, Becky's husband Brian mentioned the squirrel that ran across our yard and alighted on one of the top branches of the large ash tree. I stood under the tree gazing at that squirrel, wondering, where does the energy of which we are all comprised go? I believe it is released and dispersed throughout, and maybe a bit of my brother's energy was embodied by that squirrel, and maybe a bit of his energy has spread to us all and continue to inspire us. But whether it be his energy and or your memories of him that inspire you, pay it forward, inspire someone else, and continue to make him proud. Thank you.
I want to thank the family for putting on this event for us today, give us an opportunity to honor you, to honor Joe, and thank you so much. My name's Carlos. I'm a Tech High parent. I just want to let you know that Joe inspired my life in many ways, and I think about him a lot, and his little truck, love that. But I do have a question, and then I have a complaint, actually. So my first question is, what's with the shorts? You know, I thought maybe we should honor him all with shorts today. It's amazing that he could have such presence and such power with shorts and just be Immel. Amazing. And my complaint is that he influenced my daughter so much that in our barn there are so many projects that came out of his class that I still walk around and stub my toe on them. He was amazing. Thank you so much.
We're supposed to have two mics.
Hi, I'm Daniel Haddam. I'm from the class of '06, but the message I'm sharing is actually from Aaron Webster, who couldn't be here today because of a family engagement. He's out of town, but he wanted me to read this. I apologize, it is conveyed through text, so autocorrect happened. I've known Dr. Joseph, I think that's supposed to be Immel, it just came out as M-O, for about half my life now, and as much as I love telling the story, I think he always loved telling the story of the first name he ever learned at Tech High even more. I had bright pink hair, and a double mohawk, and it was very easy to spot. About 10 minutes before the beginning of class, he already knew my name, and by the end of the first week, he didn't even have to check the roster to see if I was there. Joe was an amazing man, and is still an amazing man because he lives on in every one of us. Most of you here now are either friends or former students, and any one of you that is a former student knows how much he cared about our education and how much he tried to make a difference for every single one of us. He is a great, amazing individual, and I'll always cherish every opportunity he gave me in life, either as a student being his teaching assistant or as a freshly graduated high school student looking for a summer job and some extra cash on the side before heading off to college. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name's Lena. I was class of 2014. A lot of you may know me. So I have a lot of stories from when I was in Dr. Immel's class, as I know many of you do, but I wanted to share a story from after I graduated. So, like Dr. Immel, I had a really rough first year of college. I went off to Harvey Mudd College, which was a very intense engineering school. And even though many of you probably know me for doing as many things as I possibly can at all times, I actually found that I couldn't do everything. And so, you know, we were taking 7 science classes at once, and it was really way too much for me. And I couldn't do it, so I left. It wasn't for me. And I remember when I came home, and I remember thinking, as I got home, oh God, what is Dr. Immel gonna think? I'm not going back to this college. I can't talk to him. This is horrible. This is the end of the world. And I talked to Stephanie, who spoke earlier, who was like, Stephanie, I can't go visit Dr. Immel. I can't. He won't love me anymore. I'm not going to college right now. And I remember she was like, that's ridiculous, Lena. That's ridiculous. So I waited a little bit. And then out of nowhere, I got this message from Dr. Immel. And he was like, hey, can I take you to coffee? And so he did. And he asked me what happened. And he told me about his first year at college and about how he ended up leaving for his own reasons. And he talked to me about science. And he talked to me about how he wanted me to come speak about my experiences to his class and share what I learned myself. And he talked to me about how much I love space and astrophysics. And it was probably because of that conversation that I'm still doing science at all. So, you know, he was always there for me when I was at Tech, and he was always there for me after. And he believed in me when I didn't even believe in myself. Thank you.
Anybody else? Well, my name's Robert. I'm the other brother-in-law, one of the other brother-in-law. I never nodded my head when Joe was trying to teach me something, pretending like I understood. And one time I even said, I don't get this, Joe, and I don't even really care about it. And he's just smiled and said, well, most people don't ever tell me that to my face. And I'm going to miss him like everybody that's here is going to miss him. I'm going to miss feeling like I had a father figure to call when I had a question about something, or going to miss having him carve the Thanksgiving turkey that he did every year for us. And I'm not sure if Lyle or Bill is going to take over that, but I am not taking it over yet. I'm still too young to carve the Thanksgiving turkey. Anyway, if nobody else has anything, oh, we do. Awesome.
Hello, I'm Dan. I'm a longtime friend of Joe, and I used to work with him. And I wanted to share a story that illustrates his passion for learning. He was telling me when he went to college, he basically took every class they had. And then finally his advisor said, Joe, just pick a major. You can have any major you want. Just pick something and graduate. because he had taken everything, they had to offer. So, I guess he picked his major and, graduated from there. But I think it's a great story. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Susan. I'm a Tech High parent, and I just want to say sometimes my daughter would tell me, she had the greatest enthusiasm for anything that came up, and she wanted to go do the strawberry DNA extraction at the fair, and she had to be there, and every time something was up with Dr. Immel, my daughter had to be there. And then when the root cause analysis came up, I said, what the heck? How can they expect you to do an all-nighter? And I was like really incredulous about the whole thing, and I was really not feeling it. And I think I even emailed Dr. Immel about it, and I was like, you got to give me some more assurance. And when it was so amazing how he could engage everyone. And when I found out what the root cause analysis really was, I thought, this is just incredible. This is incredible. And at that place, my daughter was the only girl there. And there were a couple of times where she might have been, among a small group of girls. And I think it's really important that he mentored the girls. And Carlos just talked about his daughters, but I was actually a grad student in education during the last 2 years of my daughter's time. And both Drew Kempiak and Dr. Immel provided these amazing opportunities for all of the students. And at this moment, I think it's really important, that these girls are talking about how he mentored them and that they're going into the sciences. And I'm so indebted to him for all he's done for my daughter, who will be studying science this fall. I just think it's so incredible that our students have had this opportunity, but that he never felt that girl students should have less access or opportunity. And more power to all of you for what you found with him. Thank you.
We have time for one more.
Hi, I wasn't planning to say anything, but Robert was sitting right here, so I thought I would. My name is Kristen, and I know Joe through an organization where he was a volunteer. It's called the Bay Area Biotechnology Education Consortium, and I wanted to present a card to his family. He was on the board of directors, and I got board and staff just wanted all of you to know how important he was to us. And I don't know anyone in this room, but I just want you all to know that he was dedicated beyond what was happening right here at Tech High, and he was involved in science education throughout the Bay Area. And we all miss him, and he lives on in what we do.
Thank you, Bob. Hello, everyone. Can everybody hear me in the back? I wanted to thank all of you very much for coming today and helping us to celebrate Joe. I'm sure you already know, all of you are students or former students, that he dearly loved you all and thought very highly of you. And yes, he does want you to, follow your dreams and do what you really want to do in life. And again, it doesn't matter how much time it takes, it's your own schedule. What I'd like to do is go ahead and read a final blessing, and also, if you would, just kind of like bow your head for a moment and say a short prayer, or just say a silent prayer for Joe. And let me go ahead and read this blessing. This is from Numbers 6:24 through 26. And it's intended for everyone here. as well as Joe. The Lord bless thee and keep thee. The Lord make his face shine upon thee and be gracious unto thee. The Lord lift up his countenance upon thee and give thee peace. Love you all, everybody. Thank you very much for coming.